Okay, hello out there to anyone that might be watching now or in the future. I'm here. I'm Colin Blanchette. I'm here with Brad Curry. I believe, Brad, is this your YouTube debut?
I think it is. I
I
think.
think, okay. Well, we're here to talk about Die With Your Mask On, number 3, the 100 best superhero comics of all time. There were 11 list makers that contributed lists. I'm one, Brad's one. And we've done a few of these talks on this channel already, and I'm hoping to do a few more. But I'm very excited to have Brad here. Brad's a guy that I've talked to about superheroes and this list a lot, and I know Brad has some unconventional takes. So, Brad, what did you think when you heard about this idea to do this list?
At first, I didn't want to do it because I
Okay.
didn't think I could. I haven't been like a regular superhero reader since around the end. I think after Identity Crisis. I think that was.
Okay.
It wasn't the one that pushed me away, but
It should have
that
been.
was. It should have been, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just moved into not reading a lot of superhero comics and actually growing a lot of disdain for Marvel and DC. Which I was going to point out that on in the personal write-ups, I think there's 4 on the first 2 pages, and I think 3 out of the 4 are like pretty disdainful about corporate superhero comics, and I think all 3 out of the 4 use like actually put IP in their
Yeah.
write-up
Yeah.
to talk about the cynicism of the big 2, and I was one of those 3.
Yeah.
And maybe had the most disdainful out of everybody's, I think. But
Possible.
your enthusiasm for it and your prompt that you sent, I said, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was super fun.
Yeah. Well, how was the exercise? How was making the list for you?
It was a chance to read a bunch of superhero comics. The main thing I was excited for, and the one thing that I thought was going to be the one new comic I read to try to fill out the list, was Keith Giffen's 5 Years Later Legion of Superheroes. And I'm very grateful that I made the time to do that. I was reading over the list again. I was just thinking, yeah, this is better than some of the stuff that was ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fun. And then list making is fun for me, I think. And using it as like a soapbox to get my, putting Lolly Westphin's Grand Electric Thought Power Mother #1, getting, being able to submit to other people a list where Josh Simmons' Batman comics are one spot above Dark Knight Returns. There's something that feels really liberating and fun, even though it doesn't affect the rest of the world. But I could just let somebody else know that these Batman comics are super overrated.
I didn't know if your list would be the most out of the box. I actually don't think it was, though you were really out of the box at the top. I think Gary Escher's list might have been the most out of the box, just because
I think so.
He really leaned into Golden Age and Undergrounds and alternatives and mini comics. He was really looking for everything. He was looking for everything he possibly could that wasn't Marvel or DC, that wasn't straight white guys. He was doing the best he could to unearth as many things as he could. But that said, your list does have a lot of stuff on it that didn't appear anywhere else. For a long time, you were threatening to put Jimbo at #1, and then you didn't do it. You put it at #2 and instead put the Lolly Westphin. What about that comic made it #1 for you?
Oh, Lolly Westphin's one?
Yeah.
It's in color is one of the things. And I feel like superheroes almost have to be in color. How many stores are called 4-color fantasy or 4-color. That's not it, though. I think the existence of that book is just more impressive than Jimbo's super impressive. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. But in a superhero sense, seeing someone modern take the energy of Jack Kirby and make it feminist, where, what's the line about superhero comics that they're like adolescent male power fantasies, and to take the energy of the greatest guy and put it towards stories about women. I just thought it was a much more unique book, more important book. I like that it's multiple short stories, and the last one where she just like builds this entire like universe and history, I think is a really good comic. Yeah, that's the main, and I think it's honestly a little more superheroic. There's ones, and also the things that her characters fight against feel like modern day Kirby, where they're fighting against AI drones and giant conglomerations that witness every part of your life, and it just feels very prescient, not necessarily prescient, it's just like of the moment, which I guess for an all-time thing isn't necessarily do you want to put like of the moment as the best of all time, but the rawness and again the Kirby spirit continuing on, it feels like a very pure, like the vision that Kirby had, especially later in his life, the kind of stuff that Ryan Carey, when he eloquently talks about Silver Star and Captain Victory and how those, uninhibited Kirby. And I feel like that I would like superheroes, more of that than more Watchmen.
Yeah. Do you think that Lale Westwind would agree with the characterization of it as a superhero comic?
I think she might. She does mention Kirby as an influence.
Okay.
So, yeah, I wonder. I could message her. See, she's always really cool. And do you follow her on Instagram?
I don't think I do. I should.
Yeah, she's all about like social justice, and she has like a fierce desire to make change in the world. And I mean there's other people in comics that do that too, but I don't know. I think it fits for her stuff. Or if not superhero, definitely that kind of mythic feel that the New Gods had, where she's creating these like elder gods or like space cosmic entities and things like that.
Yeah.
So it feels of the lineage.
The first title you had on your list that was conventional was Copra at number 3. And only conventional in the sense that it's obviously a superhero comic. I mean, it isn't a Marvel or DC book, but Copra, you did a Twitter thread about Copra years ago now. I mean, I don't know how long ago that was. I think we had slight interactions on Twitter, but that was where I really like made note of that, that when you wrote that thread, I was like, okay, if I ever get around to doing this zine, I got to contact this guy. And then I ended up eventually doing a zine and I contacted you. So yeah, please talk about Copra. I mean, I think it ended up at number.
It's in the 30s.
Yeah, number 31. Which is pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good showing for a modern independent comic. What is it about Copra that stands out to you?
It's what I always say about Copra is that doesn't let you forget that comics are made by people, and that feels so, against what so much of Marvel and DC have done, and where, like they don't even let Jack Kirby draw Superman's face, or in hiring. And these days, it's more like they're outsourcing to places where they could pay people cheaper, and or how they treated the Image guys before, where they've always stamped down on individuality to a degree, but at the same time, he's celebrating the people that did do the unheralded to the broader world work. Yeah. The John Ostrander and Luke McDonald, Suicide Squad, but also, of course, Kirby and Ditko. He has multiple Kirby and Ditko characters in there, not just because that also happened in actual Suicide Squad, but he adds Doctor Strange in there too. And the other thing is, it looks so cool. I think I still vividly remember when I first was like, okay, this is really cool. It was Tucker Stone's Comics of the Week. He had a picture of, I think, Cobra #2, where the Doctor Strange character is like, it looks like a bunch of small panels, and as he's trying to put up a barrier between like something from the negative zone. I was like, that looks really freaking cool. And that's when I started trying to hunt it down, and I never stopped getting it. His dedication, that idea of like, oh, this is something that a person made. It's like, it's in the inking, like it makes sure that that there's an artistic choice being made here. But also, I didn't get to mention that. I mentioned that in the write-up, but even how it's published, right? He's putting it out on Etsy, which is for things that you make by hand. And do you have any of the single issues?
No, I've always bought it in trade.
Oh man, the single issues are so good because they're like the thickest papers, like cardboard. Yeah, and I love those things. And just the difference between the single issues on the hard stuff versus like the pulpy paper that he used on the early trades. Those kind of things are like, highlighting the tactile interaction, how a comic feels in your hands, and he gives it to you in multiple ways. And as a project overall, it's really interesting. But I tried not to talk too much about that stuff because for a best of list, someone's going to read in the trade, and all people really care about is like, is the story, like, is the story cool? And like, I think, and I made sure to mention that I thought that his writing is underrated, because I've seen people on Reddit be very confused by like character motivations, and like, it's there, you guys. This guy on Reddit said that I gave him a summary. He's like, I've been trying to figure out this comic for like 5 years, and like I never could. So, I mean, it's probably, but there's other people on that thread. They're like, oh no, yeah, the comic's just about like cool people like shooting lasers or something like that. And I think it's a little bit more than that. So
yeah, it's not really hard to follow.
I don't think it's that hard to follow, but I can kind of see where people get lost. Where I don't know, he does the first person narration thing, but I went back and was reading like volume 2, and I said, oh, the refreshing thing is that he just lets it stop when it doesn't need to be there anymore. Like, this issue starts with like a bunch of first person narration by the like Shay the Changing Man guy, Rax. And then after half of the issue, like, it's not there anymore. And then the next half issue, there's none. And then it ends with the next issue. It ends with that. So I feel like other mainstream writers, they're like, once they get to like starting writing captions, it just does not stop.
Yeah.
And so, and that's just one approach that he uses. Like, there's times he does third person narration, which I think should come back, even though someone like Jake might not appreciate the third person narration of Chris Claremont.
Exactly. So what did you think about the final lists? The one that came together?
So I had to hold myself back from writing an email to you about this. I bought 5 copies of it for Alakazam, and I had to send directly to the store. And I didn't get to go to Alakazam until a week later. And I go there and I get my package from Ryan, and I'm looking at the shelves, and he doesn't have the 5 copies like in the thing he's handing to me, but they're not on the shelves either. And I'm starting to think, like, did they sell out already? And no. We didn't sell any copies. Well, 0.
Yeah.
He had to move it into like the middle room.
Sure.
And he said there was people that were interested. And they'd pick it up and they'd see that Watchmen was number 1 and they'd say, and put it back down.
I wonder, why would that discourage anybody, though? It's going to be number 1 on almost every list.
Yeah. And then I'm like, read the rest of the list. I need to be there to like hand sell it to people and tell them that like the rest of the list is really good, because the rest of the list is really good. I like Miss Fury's on there.
Yeah.
I've never read Miss Fury. Yeah. Cobra number 31, as you said, like, I think it's higher than Nexus. Is it higher than Nexus?
Yeah, for sure. 37 for Nexus.
All right.
Yeah.
Not, Death Ray, one spot, at least one spot too low, if not 10. But
yeah.
Again, and
above Hawkeye, at least.
At least above Hawkeye.
Yeah, there was some consternation. Ray Karkakis brought up that Hawkeye was one place above Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. How outrageous that was. And I was like, yeah, it's true. It is outrageous. But, that's, you make a list, and this was a group effort. Everyone voted, and we just collated the things together. I mean, yeah, just how it shook out.
So every time you say Hawk, because that Hawkeye comic, like, I've never touched it. I have no desire to touch it.
Yeah.
And then every time you say Hawk, I keep thinking, like, did we have Hawk World on there? And I'm kind of surprised we didn't have Hawk World on there.
Me too.
Which
I didn't vote for it.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I thought it would have been on my list. Yeah, I didn't vote for it. It was on my list when I first made a list. But it slid off as I reread a bunch of stuff and read a bunch of new stuff. But so you're happy with the final list, at least in terms of it being a quality list. It's not perfect. I mean, I think we were all irritated to a degree, and that to me shows that the collaborative effort worked.
Yeah, if everyone was happy, but there was no way everyone could be happy, and that's the good thing, right? Because it shows that like there isn't just one single vision that's winning out, and we're not all, we all have different things that we're bringing, which makes the list more interesting.
How so not everyone, but several of us were sharing lists ahead of time in a Google document. Did you find that sort of thing helpful to see what other people were doing, or were you sort of walled off and doing your own thing?
No, it was super helpful. That's how I came across like some of those DC near the end of DC Comics Presents. There's some really weird Superman stories. There's Rick Veitch, the one where the Phantom Zone one.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
Right,
it's so good, and I would have never known about that. And then also the Swamp Thing one, the Superman Swamp Thing one, I thought was fantastic, and I wouldn't have read those if it wasn't for seeing other people's lists and it just helped jog my memory on things that I may have liked or really didn't like, and needed to try to make sure I left it off my list and found something that I thought was better.
Sure. I don't know if you've thought about this or have it at your fingertips, but well, actually, here's a question from Gary Escher. He's here in the chat.
Oh,
I'm curious if Brad had any Gilbert Hernandez on his list. He did
of
at
course,
number
Gary.
5, Gary. Number 5. The superhero-y short comics from Love and Rockets by Gilbert Hernandez.
Oh yeah. I need to make that a separate list for an issue of canon someday. The short called Heroine, even though he did 3 comics called Heroine, and they're all totally different. But there's one where this woman sees like a kind of deformed baby, and then she has nightmares that she's going to have a deformed baby, and then she gets superpowers, and she like flies off, and she's like shooting lasers out of her eyes as she flies off, and everyone's like, oh, that looks so beautiful, and then she turns around and destroys the earth. It's better than all the other comics.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So, and that wasn't the only Gilbert Hernandez superhero comic I put on there. I think
what else do you have?
I think I have Girl Crazy. Is Girl Crazy on there?
Yep, number 23. Good memory.
And maybe Fatima the Blood Spinners.
Yeah, number 32.
Yep.
There you go. So 3 Gilberts.
Yeah, those are really high. But they're also better.
I mean, they're also by one of the best cartoonists who's ever lived, so it's kind of hard to argue with them. But I think you're the only person who voted for any of those.
Yeah. Fatima's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's befitting one of the world's leading Gilbert Hernandez experts that you would have those on there. So the question I was going to ask you, though, and if you have them top of mind, what were you irritated about or pissed off about on the list? Was there? I mean, let's get petty.
Let's get petty. So I had an intro to this, or that I thought up already. That okay. I really loved Chris Russ's pieces. I liked everybody's pieces. Really liked Chris Russ's, especially his one for Fantastic Four at number 2.
Yeah,
and it made me think that, you know, the thing that really matters in superhero comics is the villain. Like, what are you casting as the villain, and how does the hero deal with that? Because there's no suspense about, is the hero going to beat the villain? And we know, I mean, Superman's super bland, right? The hero isn't that important. It's and that's, you see it all the time where like Batman's rogues gallery is more important, or not more important, but
sure.
Or people talk about the Flash's rogue gallery because Barry Allen is nothing. And so that made me think about, that's one of the many reasons that New Frontier sucks.
Yeah, something you and I have discussed before. Yeah.
You know, Cook talks this big game about how we need new heroes to fight against McCarthyism, sexism, racism. And he does a good job with the John Henry character in that arc. And that was like the one good moment. But then the rest of it is, Hal Jordan, you're so awesome. You found the humanity in the Koreans that you're fighting against. Now, go put a nuke in this sentient island's brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, that's the big, they never and Superman makes this awful speech where he's literally floating above everybody else, talking about how he's going to make sure the Red Scare doesn't blackball any more people, and nothing happens with that. the end of the comic is like they fight Starro. That's like that's the final image because it's supposed to be clever. Like,
yeah, supposed to be.
Yeah. What is the bad guy? The bad guy is a sentient island that has a bunch of dinosaurs, so they're like killing other living beings like with impunity. Like there's that scene where I was looking at it again, like Martian Manhunter gets so mad that they kill King Faraday that he's like covered in dinosaur blood and like,
yeah.
And just the ambition of that comic I think is very it's weird. It's a misplaced ambition. He wants to try to create the entire Silver Age universe, and he does it by like doing like 3 panels per page, 4 panels per page. It just feels very storytelling wise lazy.
Yeah.
And so
I think he bites off more than he can chew.
Way more.
He just because he kind of goes on this sort of Roy Thomas jag of having to fit in as much DC history as he can fit in there. Most of it doesn't need to be there. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny to me. Some people a lot of people just love that comic, and think Darwin Cook's just the fucking bee's knees. I'm with you. I think that I don't think Darwin Cook's good, frankly. I mean, he's sort of serviceable, he's certainly not a genius, and I think that comic is a real failure. I reread it for the list. I figured, let me give this thing another shake. Maybe I'll have a different opinion, however many years later it's been, 15 years later. No, same opinion. In fact, I probably had a lower opinion of it when I reread it. Where did it end up? What was the?
It was one spot above Death Ray, which I think is like 31.
There you go. I'm not surprised. Number 33. I was not at all surprised it made the list, and I wasn't even surprised it did as well as it did because I know people like that comic. The same feeling I had about Hawkeye. I knew it was going to make it, and I knew it would do well. So, what are you going to say?
What was 32? I forgot.
Marvels. Your buddy, Kurt Snusiak.
Yeah, Kurt Snusiak. I remember I was looking at that page, and I said, "Oh, it's 2 comics that I really, really like, Death Ray and Cobra." Like sandwiching 2 comics that I think are incredibly overrated.
Yeah, Ryan Carey went on a little bit about not caring for Marvels. Actually, he just said he thought it was kind of boring, which would go into your idea that Kurt Busiek. I disagree with both of you. I think Marvels is, for what it is, I think Marvels is very well written. I think Kurt Busiek's one of the best mainstream writers there is. Of the non-deconstructionist variety, he's a sincere writer. You can't really accuse Alan Moore or Grant Morrison, those guys, of being, they always have an angle. But Kurt, Mark Waid, those guys, they're like, this shit's pretty great. Let's just not worry about, let's not examine anything. Let's just do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised that Marvel's has. I mean, honestly, most of these comics, you can really go at them if you want. And I think depending on your age and when you read them and when you came at them, some are easier to assail than others.
Can I go back to New Frontier one more time?
Yeah, please. No, go for it.
It's also really boring. It's really boring. The first half of like is leading up to Dinosaur Island, right? Like, it just takes so long to get going. Whereas like, Watchmen, like the murder mystery, first page. New Frontier. Terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty indulgent the whole way through.
Yeah. And I feel like Golden Age, that's like going back to the like, who is the bad guy you're fighting?
Mm-hmm.
In Golden Age, it's Hitler. They like have to kill Hitler. Like, cocaine, like Hitler that makes a pentagram out of cocaine and snorts it.
Yeah, and puts himself into a super body,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so, oh my gosh. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good villain,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and he infiltrated everybody. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Not perfect.
Yeah, Golden Age is underrated.
It's so low compared to what was it? It's like under 50, right?
Yeah, it's like 96, 90.
Yeah, is it that low?
91. Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's where Wizard beat us on that one. I think it's just like
That's right. It was a little more contemporary when Wizard was doing it, in our defense.
But it's about the 40s. Like, why?
I know.
Yeah, it should never age, right?
That's true.
Seeing heroes beat Hitler should like never go out of style.
Yeah. Did you vote for Golden Age?
I don't think I voted for Golden Age. Just because I hadn't reread it in a long time.
Because I think it only got 2 votes, and I was one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's freaked on at the end.
Is what? Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Anything else that jumped out to you as either that you didn't want on the list or that you thought was too high or too low?
Oh yeah, I have another rant.
Sure. Go for it. That's what we're here for.
I would be less, I wasn't super happy that Watchmen was number 1, but I could live with it.
You did vote for it number 7, by the way.
Yeah, I did. I'm part of the problem. But the problem that I'm not part of is the Frank Miller Batman stuff.
Okay.
I think that stuff was more damaging to comics in the long run than Watchmen. Sure. Because everyone blames Alan Moore for the grim and gritty thing. But when Alan Moore did it, it was like, it's outside of your normal DC superhero comics. It's a thing that stands on its own. Alan Moore is...
It's too smart. It's too smart to emulate, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to write a Justice League comic like Watchmen.
Right.
Like Tom King tried, and it stinks, so but go on with your Frank Miller.
Well, what Frank did, and Alan Moore himself. Alan Moore did Killing Joke,
he did
so
Killing
he's part
Joke.
of the problem. So like bringing that stuff into the actual DC universe and making it so where people are like, oh, I can read Batman and feel like an adult. And I think that has, just had a very deleterious effect on superheroes. Yeah. And Batman. Also, I think the darkening of Batman is not so revolutionary, because even though Dark Knight makes the Neil Adams stuff look a little tame, but it was a trend that was already happening with the Neil Adams and the like Englehart, Marshall Rogers stuff.
Sure.
So I guess you probably would have gotten there no matter what. Dark Knight also has that Elseworlds feel, but then Batman Year One is like literally regular issues of Batman.
Yeah. Did you vote for Year One? I'm not seeing it on your list.
I did. I've never liked Year One that much.
Interesting.
Though
you did vote for Dark Knight.
I did vote for Dark Knight. And Dark Knight Strikes Again, I think.
Yes, you did. One of 2 people.
Me and Ryan Carey.
That's right. Yeah, Austin English. I don't think Austin will mind me saying this. Austin English said the only change he would make to this list was switching number 100 and number 3. He would switch the 2 Dark Knights, which I thought was pretty funny. And obviously he's kidding. I'm sure there's stuff on here he doesn't care for, but it was a good line regardless.
Yeah.
But Brad, I should point out that you were not supposed to consider a work's influence,
right,
or legacy, only the work itself. So
that's true.
Is your objection to Frank Miller's? I assume it extends a bit to the work itself. If you're not a big year one guy,
Yeah, I don't know, because I was never a big Born Again fan either, but I think I like Born Again more than Year One. Just because Mazzucchelli, I think, is a little more expressionistic in Born Again than Year One.
Yeah,
that's it. Also, it doesn't have two first-person narrations going on at the same time.
Sure.
And the Bruce Wayne stuff's like hard to read with the cursive.
Yeah.
I picked up the facsimile editions because I think Tegan O'Neill did a write-up on those for TCJ, and I said I should get those. I should give Year One another chance, but I haven't. Maybe when I read it, I'll see the error of my ways. I just don't. I don't like cool Batman.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the more, blue and gray detective Batman. I just enjoy that more. Yeah. Jim Aparo for me is the Batman artist. I like Neil Adams. I like the Neil Adams stuff, even though the writing is a little spotty. But yeah, I like the Mike W. Barr kind of straight faced Batman stuff, where he can actually lose a fight. He's it's a little more. He's just a little more interesting to follow. I'm not making an argument that shit is the best stuff in the world or anything, but I just find those comics to be more entertaining than the grim and gritty stuff that I was kind of stuck with when I was reading Batman.
I agree with you to the point where I put Jim Aparo Batman on mine. I have those Milligan Aparo detective comics down.
Yeah.
I think those are some of my. It's like my platonic ideal almost of a run made up of one and done stories.
Sure.
I think those were very high quality, especially the Bomb and the Identity Crisis one. If people haven't read those, I got into those because of Tucker Stone. Those are some of his. He always talks about those ones, and I read them. Like these are really, really good. It's like, because I grew up watching Batman the animated series, which it's dark, but it's not like he's not narrating himself how many bones he's breaking in some guy's bang.
Like he's Rorschach or something. Yeah.
Fighting Superman and stuff like that. And so it feels like the teenage version of the Batman the animated series stuff. So really like that. So I keep I gave Absolute Batman a shot.
Oh, the new one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Scott Snyder one, because my coworker, who's like a 23-year-old girl, who I'm always like fascinated that she's into superhero comics, because I don't understand why anyone would get into superhero comics.
Sure.
Yeah, so many other things to do, but she mentioned that she liked the Absolute Batman stuff, and a lot of people like that stuff apparently, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's the new hot thing. We'll see how long it lasts. Yeah. Do you think what do you think about the fact that so many of the people who worked on this list are either ambivalent or hostile towards superhero comics?
I was thinking about that.
Me, by the way, so
yeah. It's weird. I'm ambivalent about that, because on the one hand, you think like, if I was someone that didn't know who we are, and I read those first four, and like these guys like hate superhero comics, and yet our list still kind of had a bunch of the same stuff that any other superhero list would have.
Yeah,
it very much feels like it's written by people our age.
Yeah,
I wonder. Yeah, even though I'm guessing Jake's younger. Is he the youngest?
I think Jake and Chris Rust, I think, might be the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris Russ he's a good Kirby Ditko guy, but yeah, I think he's in his 30s.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you and Alex are pretty close to each other. Yeah, no, but yeah, it ranges from I think the mid 30s up to like early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly broad window, but of course,
that is it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wondered about too. Is that, and I brought this up in a couple of the previous chats, is like 58 titles of 100 started in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a similar kind of spike on the original Comics Journal Top 100 list. The 80s and 90s had like half of the titles. And when I asked Gary Groth about that, because obviously, the Journal was famous for saying, it's shit. Everything sucks. And we're just garbage. Everything's garbage, And, but I asked him about that, and he says, well, I think it would have made sense because we were making the argument that we were headed in the right direction. And you can't do that if you don't think that good comics are being published currently, And of course, everyone says the 90s and they think of Image and the Glut. But Chris Ware and Peter Bagg and Dan Clowes and the Hernandez brothers, I mean, Joe Sacco, all these people were publishing. Sometimes for the first time, along with a bunch of the underground guys who were still active. So there was a lot of interesting stuff still coming out, but it's funny that we made this list in 2025,
right?
And we did not have a similar feel. Like our development stopped. It really was, 80s and 90s dominated. And I think that you have to chalk that up to demographics, guilty as charged. But I wonder if you can also chalk it up to they're just not as good as they used to be.
I really think they're not good anymore. I think.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for me to say that. Am I just an old guy living in the past?
Yeah. You're not even that old. Yeah.
Yeah. But like almost 20 years older than a 20-year-old person, like 23-year-old person.
Yeah.
Reading comics. It's I don't know. Once you get to that age, it's almost impossible. I try to read these things with new comics with an open mind, but I think that the other person that he didn't make the list, but how I feel about Dan Mora, and I've been off Reddit for a little bit, but I was scouring Reddit to see if other people on the Inner John Universe subreddit or the Transformers subreddit disliked his Transformers run. And there's a lot of people saying the most recent issue, it's really hard to follow. I was like, yeah, because he's not good. He's not good at this stuff. At least not that thing. Making exciting fight scenes or making things make sense panel to panel. But I've been reading Christopher Priest's The World to Come, the Marvel Knights one.
Okay.
And he said he did it a long time ago, but I think it's really good. But again, he's not a new writer. He's a writer that I like a lot, doing a story in the kind of way that I like. I don't know. I liked Jamal Campbell's Zatanna stuff that he did. He did a miniseries, and he's going to do the upcoming one, like an ongoing now. And I would read that. It's also just hard for me because, as we mentioned, like I have such apathy towards Marvel and DC that I don't want to read anything from them.
Sure.
Like, it has to like really like stand out, and there's just not a lot of stuff that seems to really stand out. You can look at. I keep wondering what happened, because I think I was writing down all the ones that started in 2012. 2012 seemed like a bit of a last gasp, at least for people like that have similar taste to us. Hawkeye, like Cobra starts 2012. Hawkeye, Glory, One Punch Man, Prophet, and the collection of the T-Girls or the Thai Girls came out in 2012. Obviously, it was serialized before that. And then after 2012 on our list, we have Silver Surfer Black, Moon Knight, Vision, and Thor. Vision is another comic that I think is awful. Just terrible.
I haven't read it. What I have read of Tom King, I've hated. I expected him to make the list. I was happy he only got one title on.
And then even in the write up, like it was Gary.
It's it's Ray who's a known Ray. He's a Tom King hater.
Yeah,
he likes that one. So,
but yeah, he had to explain in his. He's like, no, the rest of them suck, but this one's okay.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I feel like every couple years we're told there's a new visionary. Matt Fraction, Al Ewing, Tom King. I'm not sure who the flavor of the month is right now, but I
think Dennis Camp.
Dennis Camp, Ram V, I think is another one. And I'm not those last two I haven't ever read anything by, so I'm not knocking them. But I figure like I'll go check these things out, and I try to do it with an open mind, but I'm usually either unimpressed or hostile, like with Fraction, I was hostile. I thought it was bad. And Tom King, I read his Mr. Miracle and absolutely hated it. But I'm not against reading this stuff necessarily. It's not what I want to make my main diet, but I'll try something new. But I think that one of the reasons the 80s and 90s are so disproportionate on here is like, yeah, there's mainstream titles like Legion of Superheroes and New Teen Titans and Avengers, but a lot of this stuff is miniseries and graphic novels done by mainstream creators, really like taking big swings, trying. I'm not saying they're making Shakespeare, but they're at least trying to make something that's for a slightly more mature audience and trying to do something new. I mean, all this Alan Moore stuff that's on our list, the Frank Miller stuff, the Grant Morrison stuff. I mean, those three guys together, it's like 28 titles, Yeah. And I don't know that I see that kind of stuff today. And I don't know if it's the fault of the creators or the fault of the companies or both.
I want to point out that Shakespeare gets name dropped, I think, twice in our write-ups.
Really?
Yeah, Justice League International.
Oh, nice. Okay. Not the first title I would have thought for that.
Yeah, so I appreciate it even more. But yeah. Someone that loves Giffen as much as Raymond Savage, might say that. And I think Chris Russ name dropped Shakespeare and the Fantastic Four right up as well.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
A little more appropriate there.
I wonder, it's what I closed the Watchmen article with, is that there's just – a limited amount of things you can do with superheroes, and So I wonder.
Do you think so?
I think I like what you said about the King Hell Heroica, is that like nobody else is doing what Veach is doing and like looking at superheroes in that way. And everybody wants to do these like relatively straightforward takes, and I just don't know what's left.
Yeah, for that stuff, you're right. It's been mined pretty effectively, like monthly continuity titles. Like, what are you really gonna do? That you can be clever, and that's probably about it, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that things like King Hell or Copra, there are different ways to look at this stuff and achieve some different effects. And most superhero comics over the last 80 years have been bad. So that would tell me that there are avenues to do something decent, right? I mean,
are there like, or is there just like have all those avenues been taken?
Well, I mean, would you say that somebody couldn't make a good Western or a good mystery or a good sci-fi or good fantasy? All these genres have been mined endlessly. Romantic comedies, it's like, yeah, I mean, the majority of everything, even the majority of literary fiction, is junk. But there's still amazing things, and people will still write amazing novels. It's not like, I mean, in theory, assuming people know how to read in 10 years, we'll see how that shakes out. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm skeptical of genre. I'm much more of I'm interested in literary fiction, but I don't think that you can't do anything with genre. I think that it comes down to the creators doing it. And I'm a little mystified that there aren't, I don't know. I was talking to someone last night about this, a couple of older gentlemen, and we were talking about how come when you got to the 80s and there was an avenue, you had the direct market, you could do different things. You didn't have to do Spider-Man anymore. And when all these guys got their chance, they pretty much just did the same shit they did at Marvel and DC. It's just a little different, like, oh, now it's a spy comic, but it's still the same junk, and obviously we know what the Image guys did. It's just kind of like, it surprised me that more good writers didn't show up. And it was, you could make good money writing comics in those days. And it's weird that part didn't develop. I don't know. I'm just sort of old man yelling at cloud. And it's kind of pointless, but I'm sort of mystified. I do think that there could be good comics coming out, but maybe there's no hunger for it from the readership or from the editorial side.
One thing is, something happened where, like, I remember someone saying, like, no one wants a brand new superhero universe, and that's why every attempt at making Valiant a thing again has like gone nowhere.
Yeah.
But yet I do think people keep trying. Like, whatever Ghost Machine is, like, they kind of have like a superhero universe, right?
Yeah, I think they're already
with the worst name of all time.
Yeah, I think it's already failing.
So. Yeah, they had some people leave, I saw.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is, people forget that Marvel and DC didn't debut a universe.
Right, yeah.
Like, it accrued organically, and then they could go, hey, look at what we've got. Like, the time for Valiant to be Valiant was in 1993. That was the time when they were organically built. Anytime past that, it's just a fake. It's not real. There's a real hostility amongst the readership to anything that's out of the box, or at least too much out of the box.
Yeah. supposedly Copra sells like well enough, but I'm maybe if I see it, I just can't imagine a superhero comic that I could get super excited about. Like even if there was, I guess if someone like had a vision, like if Bampu, I can't say his name, but cutting season.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do superhero comic, I would check it out.
Sure. Yeah.
But Gilbert wants to do one. If someone that has a voice and their own visual style wants to do one, I guess I would probably check it out. I just don't know. I'd have to see it before. And I say that did you see there's this like Larry Hama and MD Bright superhero comic that just came out? Like,
not only did I see that it existed, Brad.
Oh yeah,
I bought it, and I bought it because I bought it. I just got it. I just opened up the box today. It came in. I bought it because of MD Bright.
Me too.
I mean, I like Larry Hama. I grew up on G.I. Joe, but it was because it's MD Bright. That's the reason I got it. Did you buy this?
I bought it. Haven't read it yet. I saw an ad for it, and at the back, is it IDW?
Boom.
Is Boom?
Boom. Yeah.
How did I even see an ad for that? I don't know.
I just came across it online, and so I was like, "What the hell? It's just a single comic," and I have ordered number 2. So the second it doesn't involve Larry Hama or MD Bright, I will not be paying attention to this. I don't know how long it's going to go.
How long can it go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much he made apparently more than one issue, which is surprising to me.
That's really surprising.
Or well, either that or I'll be very disappointed when I get number 2. But his name was on the solicitation.
Oh man. I hope we're not disappointed, but that's the whole reason I bought it. She was like, "Oh, Larry Hama and MD Bright. How is this possible? Let's check it out."
He must have had something in the can, and then the deal didn't work out or something.
Yeah. What would excite you?
I think kind of what you were saying. It would have to be somebody doing something. I don't know that I would get excited, kind of no matter who it was, to be totally honest. I mean, if Alan Moore came back and decided to do anything, of course, I'm an Alan Moore guy, so I might be a little skeptical, but I would definitely be on board day one. And if there were some other cartoonists that I really love, I mean, if Dan Clowes or Jaime Hernandez decided to do something, I would assume it was just sort of a lark, but I would still be there for day one. But my expectations would be pretty low, I think. I would just be hoping to be surprised. But that said, I'm not even some of the journeyman people I like from the 80s or 90s, if they were to do something on their own, I would be interested. But I don't think I'd have any confidence that it would last.
Yeah.
I would assume they'll get 6 or 7 issues from Image, and then it'll just disappear. No one will care. Frankly, Kurt Busiek. I know you don't like him, but I do. And pretty much anything he does, I'll at least pay attention to it. But I can't remember the last time I was really excited about something.
Did you get Ragnarok, the Walt Simonson
I did.
Mummy Thor?
Yeah,
it's not bad. But I mean that's all you could say, right?
It's
not bad.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Some of those guys, you're kind of like, like would I read I'll read the John Byrne X-Men book that's about to come out. But I don't expect to be blown away or anything. So I'm just sort of fascinated that it's going to get published. So
I think it has to start with like the artists. Mm-hmm. I really liked Juan Ferreira's. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering his name. His run with Jason Aaron on Ninja Turtles. I think Jason Aaron was not good on that one.
I heard that.
Yeah. sorry, I forgot who wrote up the Jason Aaron Thor piece, but even they mentioned that Jason Aaron's not super consistent with the superhero stuff.
Yeah.
But the art was awesome. I like and then now Jean Lewin Young and Freddie Williams II are doing Ninja Turtles. And I love it. I love it. Yeah. Freddie Williams' art is like really weird. The colors work perfectly for it. It feels uncomfortable a bit, and like there needs to be more of that. But yeah, I keep going back to how I can't care about a new Batman comic. I can't care. Yeah. Like, what are you gonna do with Hickman's Hawks Poten? It had me for like the first issue, and that's about it. And that was like
the list.
It didn't make it.
No, I maybe got one vote. I didn't read it, so I'm not shitting on it or anything. But people were so fucking excited for that. I just assumed, this will probably get enough votes to squeeze it in there, and just didn't.
The ad for that, I thought was brilliant. Mm-hmm. They got me. It was like one of the best house ads ever. Where it was like, it's just Moira McTaggart and Xavier sitting on a park bench, and she like whispers something to him, and it says like, "This is the most important moment in X-Men history." I was like, "You got me! Like, how is this little park bench thing going to be so important?" And then it was pretty good. Like revealing that Moira is actually a mutant that's lived like 100 times in different universes. But it's still, sorry everybody. That's issue 1.
Yeah.
I can't spoil the rest of it because I didn't read anything past that. So, I mean, there's nothing to spoil because it's X-Men and it's produced by Marvel. And nothing matters.
Yeah,
nothing can ever matter. So
that's one thing you can at least say about like a Batman comic is they put out enough Batman material that they do have self-contained things. They have miniseries and specials and graphic novels. So, if there's some creator you really like, you could pick something up and maybe go, "Oh, I enjoyed that," But with these other with the Batman monthly titles or Spider-Man or Superman or X-Men, you're just like, why would I possibly want to mire myself in their current continuity, which they will gladly chuck out the door to have a new number 1 in 5 minutes. It's all, you're right, you're just on the treadmill of kind of ridiculousness.
Oh, that reminds me of something that I would like to do a chat with you and Jake because Jake said that superheroes are bad when they're serialized. And yet he put One Punch Man at number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably sees a different kind of serialization, though. I think you're right.
I do think it is a different kind of serialization. And I wonder if that's like the best model where Hellboy could have been like that. If Mignola, like Gaiman, could just like temper down the greed and let it in and stand on its own. Like Hellboy could have been, and Hellboy and BPRD before he and Scott Alley supposedly pushed John Arcudi and Guy Davis out of bother them so much that they don't want to do comics at all anymore. But I wonder if that's like the ideal, because I do think superheroes benefit from serialization. I think, or if the Claremont X-Men, if they had the guts to, and if they hadn't listened to Kurt Snusiak and brought Jean Grey back,
Well, yeah, it wasn't Kurt's idea. Kurt's the guy who came up with the way to make it happen.
To make it happen. Okay, they were already going to do it.
Yeah, I think that was already an idea. He was a staffer at Marvel. He wasn't even a writer or anything.
Yeah.
So he got paid for 2 pages of plot at John Byrne's rate.
Wow.
For contributing that idea, basically. But yes, I think it was already going to happen.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. You know, I was kind of surprised that monthly serialized versions of superhero comics did not. There's several on here that did well, but they really are kind of the most famous versions. You know, Claremont Byrne X-Men, New Teen Titans, Legion of Superheroes, Roger Stern's Avengers. Otherwise, a lot of this stuff is miniseries or it's chunks of series like Born Again or Batman Year One. Like they appeared in the monthly title, but they aren't like a 5-year run by a couple of guys. Right. Most of these things are pretty discrete units that you can kind of chunk out and pretend you're reading a graphic novel, right? Instead of what you're really reading. If you're reading like, you know, New Teen Titans, you're just reading monthly comics they put in a book. I mean, they're meant to be read every 30 days. And it was my impression that you weren't necessarily sympathetic to that model, that delivery service. Am I wrong about that? Or is it just the era those were produced in that you're not sympathetic to?
I don't know if I feel kind of maybe after reading everybody's write-ups, but I end up having like a nostalgia for that stuff. I think I've taught you before how I love just picking up random issues of classic X-Men. I think that stuff's really good. There's always going to be diminishing returns, and that's why I wonder if the like manga model where like there is going to be an end, like almost no a lot of manga overstay their welcome, but there's going to be an end for the most part. I mean, Dragon Ball just keeps coming back, but it's one of the things that Giffen said in one of his last interviews that I could find was that like he just wished that when Jack Kirby left Fantastic Four, they just put it away and let somebody else come up with something new. So
that's what Jack wanted too.
But I can't. Did I not put Black Panther on the Priest Black Panther?
I don't know if you did. I did.
I know you. Yeah.
Let's see. You had Quantum and Woody on here.
No, maybe I did Quantum Woody instead of Black Panther.
Yeah. You and I both voted for Quantum and Woody, and unfortunately, it didn't make the list. Yeah, I don't think you voted for Black Panther.
I have his Steel run. No, I have Supreme on there. I have Grant Morrison's Animal Man, which I will write about.
Yeah, there you go. I was a little surprised it was on your list.
That was in high school. That was like my favorite thing. I have one. I forgot. I have One Punch Man on there, but only volumes 1 and 2, because that joke wears thin quickly.
Yeah. Well, at least one other person, probably it might have been Alex. It got at least 3 votes because it made the list without any editorial massaging. Well, you kind of, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say the long-running 80s serial. I think it's something that I do have like nostalgic feelings for, but I can't I can't picture myself like putting aside time to read any of those besides, I bought every issue of Suicide Squad and I've never read the whole thing. I think I have maybe 75% of Sandman Mystery Theater, which I'm kind of sad that didn't make the list. It's not
that and Shade the Changing Man were two I was surprised, even though I don't know if I voted for either one. But kind of in retrospect, I probably should have. No,
yeah, I bought like
theater. I did.
Oh, good. Somebody did. I bought like every Nexus almost. Never could get through all of that.
That's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I read a random issue of Grunwald's Cap because of the write-up and Chris Ross, and I really enjoyed it. It was like
what
John
era?
Walker.
Oh, it's John Walker. Okay.
John Walker gets shot.
Yeah.
It's like right after Cap, like Steve Rogers is reinstated, and there's this like press conference with him and John Walker gets like assassinated. And then Cap's trying to catch up with like what's going on with Nick Fury, and they go to like a SHIELD headquarters and they get attacked by the headquarters. Like, this is a very solidly done comic, way better than a random issue of Absolute Batman. Where
I agree with you. Tell Jake that.
Yeah, like you said about Kurt, it's not, it wasn't trying to be more than it was, and I think that's one of the problems I have with modern comics is like there's a self-importance in like losing track of like just telling an entertaining story where, there's a self-seriousness to it. The Scott Snyder, the Absolute Batman issue I read is like, I saw people online making fun of it, but it's Alfred like telling Bruce like about like trying to build up the Joker, and there's always some like faux deep, faux clever caption where it's like, and that's why he is the Joker, like I can't explain like why that bothers me so much, but it's like, just tell a ripping yarn and don't try to like make it the definitive run of whatever.
Yeah.
Turn Thor into a frog. Turn Batman into a frog.
Yeah. Turn Captain America into a werewolf.
A werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like in the 70s, which is a pretty terrible era for mainstream comics, those writers took themselves really seriously, like way too seriously, but they didn't necessarily take the comics that seriously. I mean, they all thought they were geniuses, but they thought it was perfectly fine to write stuff for 12-year-olds, Nowadays, I don't know if these guys think they're geniuses, but they want to write stuff that's going to win a Pulitzer Prize, like they want it to be taken seriously. Like, adults are reading this. And it is adults reading it, which actually kind of makes it more sad. And that's a weird shift in kind of the way people view themselves and view the material. I don't know. In a lot of ways, the advent of the trade paperback, the hardcover collections, I mean, they're packaged like they're books, but they're not really good books, and that leads to like this self-importance, faux seriousness that I don't think that most of these guys can't really pull off. It's like, just because you put an Iron Man story in a hardcover doesn't mean it's that another adult wants to read it, really. It's like most of these guys just aren't Alan Moore, Alan Moore straining to do what he was doing. He was sick of it after a few years. So I'm actually I've been reading the giant interview that Gary Groth did with Alan Moore right after he left DC. It ran over 3 issues of the journal, and Alan Moore is, at this point, he's done. He's like, I'm done with superheroes. I'm not interested. And of course, the irony is he was back with Image because of money problems. Yeah, like in 2 years, he was back because he needed the money. So he was happy to take Todd's money and Rob's money and Jim's money. But he's just so fed up, and he wanted to move in a different direction, and so it's kind of sad, almost, like, listening to what he's saying, because you're just like, shit. The ambition was there, but the realities just couldn't match up. The audience wasn't there to do it. So, yeah.
I've never read. Speaking of a list that Canon put out, I was looking at your top 50 things you love about Fantagraphics, and you talked about the Kevin Eastman interview, and that's one I really need to read, because Tundra, the death of Tundra is a set, because I think that kind of is one of the things that made Alan Moore have to go back to, not have to, but I just, with modern superhero comics, there's just like, I don't understand why people buy them, because the single issue experience is awful.
Yeah.
And, people talk about like writing for the trade, and that's, I was a Warren Ellis fan, and a lot of that is his fault. And that's one of the things I like. There's times I think that the 80s is the peak of superhero storytelling, because they knew that there was enough audience that was into it that would follow it from issue to issue, so they didn't have to do 3 different Superman or Supergirl stories in one issue that were totally unconnected. So they could do these subplots, and you could see characters and relationships grow, and you get the soap opera stuff. But there was no thought at all that these were going to be collected. And so there's the job is to make an entertaining single issue experience and do enough to get somebody to come back. And I just don't. The only time I see that level of plotting is for like miniseries. And even then, like, there's that knowledge, like, oh yeah, this could be in a book. So like, not all of them are great.
Well, and they're still kind of written. You're only getting a part of something. I mean, I'll pick up miniseries too, thinking, oh, this is a small chunk. I can read this Mark Waid thing, and I'm only putting out a few bucks. But they're unsatisfying reads as discrete. I mean, it might add up to something entertaining, but you paid $20 by the end of it, and you're like, for that, like,
So I caught myself.
Sorry, what was that?
I kind of caught myself at the end. I was like, there's no guarantee that even a miniseries is gonna. I was super disappointed in the Mariko Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez Zatanna, because it just felt like there wasn't a whole lot going issue to issue, and there wasn't like strong, but not a lot to make me want to come back to the next one. And I thought the Jamal Campbell one was like way better in that regard.
Well,
going back to that.
We've been overwhelmingly negative, which is kind of what I was hoping for with you. So let's end on a positive subject. Keith Giffen.
Yes.
He had 5 titles on this list that he at least did something on. I mentioned Austin English earlier. He was very happy about all the Giffen. And it was only 5%, but he was still very happy we had that many on here, Talk about Giffen. You wrote about Giffen for Die With Your Mask On #2. I know he's a guy that you've been reading a bunch of his minor stuff, little, just off the wall appearances, things he did. Michel Fife has been doing these insane videos on YouTube that are awesome.
Right.
Single thing he ever did, which is fantastic. It feels like, at least in a minor way, there's a kind of GIF-renaissance,
The GIF-renaissance.
And I feel like we're at least a small part of that. So talk about GIFing for a second.
Yeah, I know you and I have tried to speak that in the GIF-renaissance into existence, and not just speak it. You let me write way too much about Keith Giffen Supreme, and I'm super proud of it. I love that stuff. I kind of wish I'd put the Supreme Annual on my list because I think it's better than New Frontier, and a bunch of other stuff too.
Sure.
Giffen, I don't know. I think I'm sad. I'm really sad I didn't appreciate him while he was here. I kind of always let the internet chatter of people with no taste distract me from him, because I was a huge Legion of Superheroes nerd, and I'd always read online 5 years later, don't touch that stuff. The only good thing is the Quiet Darkness, and they're probably only saying that because Darkseid's in it.
Sure.
And I don't know if I had the appreciation. I always got the feeling that the only people that like Ambush Bug were old nerds. And it's kind of funny that Raymond Savage, even he addresses that feeling too. So I'm not the only person that felt that way.
Yeah.
But now that I am an old nerd, I love Ambush Bug. That was something I picked up during this time, during my Giffen awakening, and I love that stuff. I think all the consternation about him ripping off Jose Munoz, and yeah, it's not nice that he did that, but it also made superhero comics that look like nothing else and good. They look really interesting. They make me feel something when I look at them. His compositions, and how sometimes intentionally hard they are to read. I forgot who said it. Someone said a Keith Giffen book, you have to pay attention, and it's something that Austin English talked about in his obituary, where he said the Giffen books felt like a solid thing, whereas the other comics he would read would kind of get worse and worse the more he thought about it. And yeah, he was always looking at ways to. I love how he uses sound effects to tell stories, where you could tell what's happening off panel by what's going on with the sound effects. And maybe a year ago, you and I were talking about how people always say that Giffen's this really good visual storyteller, and I didn't know what people meant by that. I knew examples of what I thought was bad visual storytelling, which is Dan Mora, but just the way, and some of it's weird, and I don't know if when he'll do the cut and paste thing where it'll be a 9-panel grid of just the same picture over and over. But it kind of works. I don't know how or why. And you could call it lazy, that just you could call the style ripping off stuff unethical, which it might be. But his restlessness is interesting too. He didn't rest on his laurels. As we had the other article in Die With Your Mask On #2, where talking about the stylistic shifts, and the ones where he changes his style in the middle of an issue, and the thing I mentioned in my writer for 5 years later is how there's always this writer versus artist tension when in corporate comics, and and nobody wants to talk about the inkers or the letterers, which we should talk about the letterers.
And the inkers.
Yeah, the inkers. The inkers are so, yeah. And I don't know enough to talk about it, but I have to always remind myself that like what I'm looking at is we have to give a lot of credit to the inker, if there is one. And I think that's also something missing in modern comics. But
yes,
going back
that's
to Giffen,
kind of my point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he problematized that dichotomy because he was doing both. And it's just, and the way he collaborated, he had the people that he liked collaborating with, and they would just go off and do all kinds of weird things. Like Robert, with Fleming, do Ambush Bug, but also Supreme, but also Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it just seemed like he was I don't know if he was having a good time with how, I think he was trying to have a good time, but also by trying to have a good time, causing himself to also not have a good time when DC or Marvel would try to rein him in.
Sure.
But yeah, there's vitality in his stuff. I think I picked up a bunch of issues of his weird The Hunted, I think it's called. Like this Green Lantern character he made that everybody hates, where he tried to do the like reboot the DC cosmic stuff, but like the way he did Annihilation at Marvel, and like nobody likes that stuff. But I haven't read it all, but it's not bad. Like,
yeah,
there's stuff that people think is awful by him, like not his OMAC. There's some other character. There's so much of his stuff.
There is, yeah. He was one of the earliest people that I was a fan of, that I followed. If I saw his name on a comic, I was like, okay, let me give this a try. Always, really early on, because Invasion was kind of the first big thing I noticed, and he was the mastermind of that series. And so I followed him for years and years. Eventually, I kind of quit reading mainstream comics. But he kept making them, so I missed out on a bunch of stuff. But when he died, you start looking around, you're just like, holy shit. There's so much stuff, including stuff while I was reading that I was missing. I mean, he was really generating a lot of material. Yeah. Were you disappointed that things like Trencher or the Heckler, some of these other things didn't make the list?
Trencher should have made the list. I'm very disappointed in that. I think Austin would feel the same way.
I think you would too. I kind of feel like there's a short list of comics that I think I didn't vote for, and I don't really have that much affection for, but I wish they had made the list. It would have made a better list if they were on there, and that's one of them.
Yeah. I need the broader world to be confronted with Trencher.
Yeah.
And like reconcile that like it is one of the best comics. I had it pretty high up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe you and Ryan Carey might have been the two who voted for it.
Man, I
remember correctly.
Heckler, I love it. Heckler.
Yeah.
But if I only had to have one, it would have been Trencher.
Yeah. Yeah, Heckler is kind of, the poor stepson of Ambush Bug, right? I mean, it's just, it's not as well known. I was buying that as it was coming out and, enjoying it. But I also, Keith Giffen is a lot like Christopher Priest in that you pretty much always knew that whatever series they launched, it was going to get canceled within a year. So you could just start buying it, and because you knew, well, this isn't a long-term commitment. It's like a mini series.
Yeah.
So here's a fanzine live guy. Ambush Bug Uber Alice. This is Tom, who's a very nice guy. Who actually Tom just placed an order for Die With Your Mask on number 3. Tom, I will send that to you soon.
I hope you enjoy it.
I bet he will. Tom's a really nice guy. Well, I think we can probably call it there.
All right, right at 1:30.
For anyone that wants a list of more or less good to sometimes great superhero comics made by a bunch of guys who I think have the appropriate amount of skepticism. I've explained this in a couple of these other videos, but we'll say it again here. I wanted guys who had read other comics. I didn't want just Wednesday Warriors. I wanted people who read undergrounds and alternative comics and manga and European comics. I trust the opinion of people who have the appropriate amount of context. And Brad, you're at the top of that list. You're a guy I'm always interested to know what you think about things. Even when I vehemently disagree with you, I always respect your opinion. So thank you for doing this. And I would love to drag you on again sometime. You can argue with Jake or Chris Russ or any of these other jokers. Jeremy Stone, I think you'd have a lot of fun with. So we'll have to get you back on here sometime.
Yeah, I think what you said in your editorial is right, that this is the best, the number one. There's a list of 100 superhero comics.
Yeah.
So thank you for putting it together, and I think it turned out great, and I hope people enjoy it.
I think so far the people that have gotten it have enjoyed it, and
the people that aren't afraid to read, don't judge a list by its number one.
That's right. Yeah. And also, like you mentioned the write-ups earlier, we were mimicking the old journal presentation, and that's one thing I really enjoy about this issue is the write-ups, the different voices, people arguing for things that they think are worthy comics. I think it just provides more context than you would have gotten from some wizard list or something, where it would have just been like, isn't it cool when Batman did this, and people took all their write-ups in different directions. But I thought your Watchmen write-up especially was the cherry on top. Really well-written piece. A nice out of left field entry, since I knew you didn't expect to be assigned that one. And that's why I assigned it to you, because I knew that you would have a different perspective than a lot of us who would have just, I think people would have said smart things, but I wanted someone who was going to approach it a little differently, and that's why I asked you to do it. And I think you did a great piece. I wrote about Watchmen for another publication, and I'm not looking forward to comparing those two pieces. So
thank you for making me do that one. I mean, I pushed back when you told me to do Watchmen, but I'm glad you had me do it. I liked writing it, and I'm not super proud of everything I write, but I like that write-up. So thank you again.
All right. Okay. Thanks to everyone out there who may have been watching and may watch in the future. Gary and Tom, you're the only two guys who left comments. I'm sure we'll get other complaints and people leaving comments later as they hear our thoughts on Darwin Cook, Tom King, various other sacred cows. Dan Mora, his stands, if they exist. All right, Brad, thank you so much.
Thank you, Colin. Have a good night.
All right, you too.